Started at 6.
call the meeting to order. Dane Shaw will lead us in our invocation and pledge.
Father, we are grateful for tonight. We thank you for your time just to be here as a city. And Lord, we ask for your guidance and your wisdom and your strength, and may us make decisions that represent your kingdom. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dane. Roll call. Here.
Here. Here.
Here. Here. All right, first on our agenda is a proclamation recognizing Decatur Fast Pitch 10 and under, or U10. Is it 10U or U10? 10U for winning the 2022 state championship. Mayor?
Is it U10 or 10U? 10U. All right, y'all kind of get around here so those that are in attendance today can see. Had a chance to go to Alexander City and see y'all play a little bit. I didn't get to stay and see you win the championship, but you represented our city like a bunch of fine young ladies that you are. And I think you brought home the trophy, didn't you? We're going to celebrate that today. This is a proclamation from the city of Decatur, Alabama, and it says, whereas the Decatur Fast Pitch 10U, under the leadership of coaches Josh Howard, Zach Mills, Joe Butto, Austin Mabe, and Sarah Beach, proved their excellence by winning the 2022 state championship. And whereas the Decatur Fast Pitch 10U won Pre-Area 2 on June the 11th and advanced to participate at the state tournament on June 23rd, winning the state title with an overall record of 18-6. And whereas it is fitting and appropriate that the citizens of this community recognize your hard work, dedication, and high level of enthusiasm exhibited by the coaches and all of the players. Now therefore I, Tab Bowling, Mayor of the City of Decatur, Alabama, do hereby deem it an honor and a privilege to extend to you our congratulations and appreciation on behalf of myself and the council and the citizens of this community on your outstanding performance, and thank you for your invaluable service and contributing to the honor of the City of Decatur, Alabama. Congratulations. Champions. All right. Congratulations.
Good job, ladies.
You gonna lead the cheer?
Yeah, I was gonna say, is Carlton gonna lead us in a cheer to get started?
Everybody's ears would rupture.
Do it, Dad.
No. Not in here.
He wasn't listed as a coach, he was just as important as a coach. So,
All right.
Yeah, look at that.
You gotta wear that.
It'll fit. They're big.
All right, we'll let everybody clear out. All right, we do have some folks that are signed up for public comment, and then there's some that are signed up for specific agenda items. For, I think, just general public comment, first on my list is Stephen Johnson. If you can just come to the podium, just state your name and address, and we do 3 minutes on that.
Hey, thank you for the opportunity to speak, and pardon my rambling, I'm not a professional speaker, so. I have had over 40 years, however, as a professional manager in manufacturing and continuous improvement, and I'm currently retired, but I'm concerned about the city's 6th Avenue revitalization plan. to me, one of the things that's the biggest problem indicator is traffic flow. It seems like every time I try to cross town, every traffic light I come to stops me. So, you know, I think that in order to improve the city and make it more desirable for people that work in Madison or Huntsville, places like that, to live here, it will be very important to improve the traffic flow in the city. And a particular concern is the entrance to the city. You come across the bridge and you've got 6th Avenue or 20th, Highway 20, that's your options. And you got 2 lanes coming in and got 3 lanes going out. It's like a racetrack going out. I mean, it's kind of crazy when you're leaving the city, but coming in, people that are working outside the city and living here, it's very frustrating trying to get into the city. So I'm very concerned about the 6th Avenue project in that it may slow down that access into the city even more. I'm all for beautification of the city and making the city more desirable. I love plants and trees. I mean, you can ask my wife, I'm always in the yard doing something. But I'm just concerned about anything that may impede traffic flow in that area. And that's what I wanted to address tonight. I do have some other concerns as far as traffic in general in the city. I don't know, it's kind of a joke between my wife and I. And we've been living here for about 4 years now, and I've been working here. I worked here for about 6 years. But it seems like it's a requirement in the city that you have to change lanes when you turn. If you're turning, you have to change lanes. I mean, everybody does it. And nobody uses turn signals. So it's just traffic is crazy, but anything we do to impede the flow of traffic, I think it's going to hurt the city, and I just wanted to address that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Any comments or questions? And I know Dane is working with Volker, and we have a lot of public feedback from the meeting last week, and we'll certainly add your concerns. I would agree with what you said. We definitely don't want to do anything that would impede traffic, and I assure you AlDOT does not want to impede traffic flow on 6th Avenue. And part of the problem is we've got so many traffic lights in a very short span on 6th Avenue. So hopefully we'll be able to actually improve traffic flow coming through there. So. All right, next on my list, I'm trying to skip down, is Mr. Fortin, but I don't know, there he is. You switched seats on me, I'm sorry. If you can just say name and address, and we'll do 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Bob Ford, I live at 1502 First Avenue Southwest, and I've been trying to get my ditches cleaned up, and it's not to my satisfaction or nobody else's in my neighborhood. We're still getting rats. The mayor hung up on me on the phone the other day.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did, sir, yes, you did. You hung up on me. You said that job's closed and you hung up on me. You sure did. I don't appreciate it. I don't like the job they did on the ditch. It's halfway done.
Has any more work been done since I was out there at your place, Mr. Fortin?
Yes?
I mean, since they cut it the first time?
No,
More.
I did some more of it. I did some of it.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay. And as I said the last time, it was, it's almost embarrassing. Go ahead, I won't interrupt you. 3 minutes.
But if the mayor can't do a better job than what he's doing, we need somebody else in here. I'm just fed up with it. And
Well,
everybody else is too.
Just let him talk, and then I'll address his questions. You got anything else to say?
That's all I want to say. I just want to solve the problem solved.
Okay, so whenever we talked the other day, I'm on the phone, and you were the one that hung up first. And,
No, sir, I did not.
well, my assistant was in the office whenever we were talking. I've got a witness to that. But be that as it may, I did tell you that the work order as far as the ditch work is closed. We've
Right.
met your requirements, or the requirements on getting the ditch clean. And I kept asking you what your basis was for making your comments, and you didn't. You just said it wasn't right. You wasn't happy with it.
It's not clean enough.
Sir?
Someplace else in Decatur, your house is clean, isn't it? Your neighborhood's clean, isn't it? Is your neighborhood not clean?
Yes, sir.
It's cleaner than my neighborhood too, isn't it?
I can't say that.
Yes, you can. I know it is.
Shane, Can you kind of explain what was done as relates to the ditch work, please, sir?
Yes, sir. Mr. Gruber, John, he called me about, after the complaint about the drainage issue, and we went over there and sent a crew over there, and they cleaned the debris out of the ditch, that was the trash and whatnot, would be blocking any flow of water, and they also shot grade on it from the ditch, from the pipe that goes under into Dry Creek up to the next pipe in the back of the alley.
Yeah.
Like 2 yards up from yours, there's 500s fall, which is basically it's flat ditch pretty much, but it does have fall, there's no trash in the ditch. They cleaned all that, they got over a tandem load of just debris out of it.
Well, Point Mill looks a heck of a lot cleaner than my neighborhood does, I guarantee that. So does your house, I guarantee it.
I can't understand
guarantee
what
it,
you're
your
saying.
neighborhood looks cleaner than my neighborhood does.
Shane, would you
Your
say that?
neighborhood, where you live at, is cleaner than my neighborhood. I know that. You wouldn't put up with your neighborhood looking like my neighborhood does, would you?
Sir, I would take care of my property.
All right then, why can't you take care of the property over by us?
We did.
No, sir, you did not.
Well, I think we just heard one of our supervisors say just the opposite.
I think the supervisor said that we took the litter out of the ditch, correct?
Yes, they took all the debris, and I mean, it was some, normally what a loader truck would get, we just took the machine over and come in and find it, so we could shoot grade to see the fall in the ditch, to see if there was an issue with drainage or whatnot, but it's 500 fall from the pipe up the alley from him to the pipe that goes under the alley and it's filled into the Dry Creek. Okay, so, I mean, it's a long stretch, 3 yards, I mean, I don't have exactly the measurements on me, but it's 3 yards, it's a pretty good little stretch of span for 500, but that's common, as long as it's nothing impeding it, water will go, it'll run out.
Would you say, Shane, that grass and weeds though could impede the flow of water?
Oh, maybe, I guess it could, but there's nothing to catch it, normally it'll go on through.
Yeah.
It'll just,
But I think that any obstruction will impede the flow of water, and we've had flooding situations, and I'm not addressing this to you, I'm sorry, Shane. But we've had flooding situations in this immediate neighborhood, and as I said the last time, we dealt with the ones over on Newman, and we have them on First Street, and we've had them on Brookhaven Street, and immediately in this area we're having flooding. And I think when I was called over, he asked me to look at the overgrowth in his ditch, and that's what I did, and it was overgrown severely. And when the crews came out, and at that particular time, I didn't know if it was our city crews or if it was the contract crew. I was unaware of who came out. But when he called me back out to look at it again, it was, as I said, it was almost embarrassing, the scope of work that was done.
When did you go?
I went after he called me and said that they had been out there and mowed.
I mean, what's the day?
I can get the date for you.
Yeah, I mean, he came last Monday. I went out there Tuesday, and our crews were on site. Now, they were on site just because the work order came into the process, not any special request by me or anyone with the city. Have you been there since
I came
then?
the day after you were there.
Okay.
The day after you were there. And because Mr. Fortin didn't call me, but a lady over on Phillips Court called me who backs up to that. And she said that the crews had been out there, and I went out and looked at it. And Mr. Fortin came out and met with me while I was out there, and it was not a good job, and it was not a job that any of us would want at our home. And it's city right away. It's not his property, and we saw from the pictures last week how he maintains his property. So it's not that he's slacking, it's that we're not doing a good job, and that's where we are right now. And I went out, it was the day after the mayor was there, correct? Okay. And Ms. Hubbard called me. Is that her name? Her name's Hubbard, correct?
She wrote me.
Her last name is Hubbard, correct?
Yes.
Okay. She called me, and I went out and looked at it, and she was not pleased with the work either. And it's just a matter of us, in my opinion, either us doing the work to a sufficient level, or our contractors need to do it. And our citizens are paying for this, and this gentleman is in a state of distress, and and rightfully so. He's got ditches all around his home, and he's never seen rats before, and now he's seeing rats. Could be caused by this, might not be, but we need to remove that as part of the equation if this is a problem. That's what I think.
The ditch was cleaned out, the work order's closed.
I understand you when you said that the work order is closed, but the ditch was not cleaned out. It was not mowed out. There's still overgrowth in there. I actually called Bain and texted Bain and asked him to come and take pictures of it because it is not cleaned out. I understand, but I did. I wouldn't have called you out if I was standing out there and it was done to a satisfactory nature.
All right.
And the mayor himself told me if I was not doing a good job, let me know. And I called you back the next day and I told you you didn't do a good job, and that's when you hung up on me. You said the job's closed.
Thank you, Mr. Fortin. I think we understand your complaint, and we'll let the city operations work on if there's something more they can do. But we
Are they going to work on the main ditch too?
I can't speak to what exactly those guys are going to do. Mr. Jackson has said kind of what he thinks we need to do, and it's
I have spoken with
city
Jason Lake. I've spoken with Jason Lake, and I think Jason has at least gone out and looked at it, I think. And he, I'm sure that he'll come up with some sort of solution, but about to say something?
It's my understanding that there will be some mowing, but no more grading.
With 500 spot, I mean, that's what we was doing,
Yeah.
to see if we could dig it down anymore. But if you go in deeper, you're not gonna have any fall whatsoever.
I think it's just the mowing.
Yeah, I mean,
And I think, Shane, to your credit, I think that when I went out there, there was not a lot of debris. I'll just be clear, you guys did a good job. The fact is that, and I had some pictures on the board last week and we didn't have them this week, but when we came out, there are bushes out there that are probably 3 or 4 feet tall in that ditch. And when our citizens are doing their best to keep their area mowed and kept up, then it's our responsibility to do our best as well and to make sure that our job is taken care of as well. So I just, you know, I hear Mr. Fortin, and I've seen what he's talking about, and it's real. And so, yeah, I think that when you're in a neighborhood where we have a history of flooding recently, and there's any sort of obstruction in that ditch, then I think it's going to help contribute, or it's going to contribute to additional flooding. And I think that that's exactly where he is. He showed me where the water had come up to his porch line, and it had not done that before, where your wife was showing me too. And so that's kind of scary when you're beside a ditch and the water comes all the way up to your porch line and about to come into your home. So that's got to be a scary situation. So I just want to be able to help resolve this situation as best we can.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fortin. We hear you. Next on my list is John Templeton. No? Okay. And I think everyone else that has signed up is for a specific agenda item, I believe. I don't miss anybody. Okay, we'll move into the agenda. First is approval of minutes. Anybody have an issue taking these all at once? All right.
So moved.
We've got a motion by Mr. Pepper. Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
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 Aye. All right, all the minutes are approved with a vote of 5-0. Next, we have set public hearings. This is just setting a public hearing. Ordinance number 224522, approved zoning request 139722 for recently annexed tract of 6.4 acres located at 370 McIntyre Lane, zoning to be M1A Expressway Commercial District. Set public hearing for August 1st, 2022 at 6 p.m.
Yes, this is a recently annexed tract of land just south of Highway 24 on McIntyre Lane. The request is for it to be zoned M1A, and that was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission.
All right, any questions? All right, next we have public hearings. Ordinance 224512, approve rezoning request 138922 for Mike Aziz to rezone .33 acres from B1 local shopping district to B2 general business district located at 1201 Moulton Street West. Public hearing was set May 2nd, 2022.
Yes, this property on Moulton Street is currently zoned B1, looking for a rezoning to B2. And this was not recommended for approval on a 4-4 vote by the Planning Commission.
All right, this is a public hearing, so we will open the public hearing now. The only person I see to speak on this item is Ms. Tate. So you do too. I just didn't have you on here, but you can.
Before we go into that, is Mr. Aziz here today? Mr. Aziz is not here? Okay.
Ms. Tate, you're first signed up, but you guys will have the opportunity to talk as well. So,
I'm Frances Tate, 506 Monroe Drive, Northwest Decatur, Alabama. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to come before you. I am opposed to the change in the zoning from B1 to B2 for these reasons. There's a reason for the B1 zoning. It filters out businesses that is not conducive to a neighborhood. We have 2 churches and a funeral home within a block and a half of this above-mentioned facility. They have invested time and money in the neighborhood to make it better. This would have a negative impact on our neighborhood. We as citizens and leaders should strive to improve the neighborhood with peace and tranquility and not create problems. B2 zoning open up a too broad of an area to fit into a neighborhood. The planning board has turned down 2 B1 zoning changes in the last 3 months. My question is, if it's not good for one neighborhood, why is it good for another neighborhood? I deem it is not good for a neighborhood. So I ask that you deny this zoning change. Thank you.
thank you, Ms. Tate. A couple of other folks signed up. Do you mind? Let's let them go first.
Basically, we're here just to agree with what you said.
Okay.
To support.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, can we get you to sign before you leave? Sign name and address. David, do you want to go ahead and address council?
My co-workers knew that I'd be here tonight and asked that I get up and speak to this issue. And so I'll be brief, I promise. But my group started working some issues on this structure back in 2017 and got some things fixed. And then with the involvement of the police department, we've been back and forth out there multiple times through the years. And then we've been involved with this business with the alcohol licensing part of it. Now, Mr. Aziz owned the building through this entire time and had a tenant in there, but he was aware of these things taking place and going, transpiring, because we kept him informed. And then I guess the last thing is back in 2020, things got so bad that we decided at that point that it was just time for it to all stop. And so we worked with the police department and the revenue department. And this was the first time that I had seen this done in my time here, but we actually asked the council to revoke the privilege license for this business that was there. I just, based on past history and his awareness, I don't see anything better happening. Right now, the problem's solved. I'll read the last paragraph in the ordinance that the council passed to revoke his privilege license. It said, whereas the Community Development Department, Decatur Police Department, and Revenue Department have sustained multiple violations of state laws and city ordinances at this business, and whereas the business constitutes a public nuisance by being detrimental to the health, safety, comfort, convenience, and against the peace and dignity of the city of Decatur and its citizens. And so his license, the tenant's license, was revoked. That's been my history with it. It's gone on for a number of years. And the owner knew. The owner knew.
Oh, let's see. Captain Archer, do you have something to, are you here to address this or something else?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I leave the public hearing open. We could close it and ask questions. Is there anybody else here?
I thought that he was going to give information contributing to the public.
Oh, on this item?
On this particular
Okay,
item.
if you do, then come to the
I'd
podium.
like for the council to hear some of the things that have gone on at that place. I'd also like to add, while you're walking up, is that Mr. Aziz, according to tax records, has owned this property since 2005. So all of the problems, as David says, that have occurred, and he's been made aware of those situations, he's not necessarily rectified them. It's just a continual problem. And so go ahead and kind of share what police has had.
Good evening, Council Mayor. Captain Archer, Police Department. I'm here on behalf of Chief Pinion, not able to make it tonight. So that area, that corridor on Highway 24, Moulton Street, coming in from the Lawrence County area, going back decades, has always been problematic when it comes to enforcing criminal laws in that area and the criminal activity in that area. That particular property has always been the hub of that activity. Years ago, it was that and the car wash that was adjacent to it. That car wash has really been out of service for several years. That problem's gone away. In the years leading up, I think it was 2017 when we really started documenting the enforcement actions, that particular property. We pulled 11 reports from 2017 to 2019 that dealt with enforcement actions taken mostly from patrons that were loitering on the property or inside that business, ranging everything from drug possession to drug trafficking, gambling, illegal weapons possessions, shootings that occurred there, illegal gambling, and the sale of, from the business, the sale of untaxed cigarettes. And as Mr. Lee said, the property owner leased that property out, but he hasn't demonstrated the responsibility of monitoring it adequately to prevent criminal activity in that area. And oftentimes, we documented where that business was not cooperative with law enforcement to the point that they would tell law enforcement to get off the property while allowing other people to loiter in that area. Rezoning this particular area would present a lot of problems. It's in a transition state now. I think Ms. Tate and others who live in that area would probably agree. That area is better now than it's been in decades. And it's kind of on that teetering point, kind of like when Stonegate, and the council made great decisions when it came to Stonegate. They let that property settle down and then repurpose the area. And we're not opposed to growth in that area, but it's the type of growth and the type of businesses that could be established there could bring back some of that criminal activity that has died down. So it's kind of at a teetering point. It's not saying that area is perfect. There's still a lot of enforcement in that area. There's a business across the street that's had issues that the owners had shown willingness to work with us on that. There's a convenience store across the street there's issues that happen there, but again, the employees have called us time and time again, so they're working with us. But if this property were repurposed in that way and allowed those types of businesses to established there, it would be unsafe, again, for the residents who live in that area. It would be a step in the wrong direction.
So you think the issue is the sale of alcohol? What business could go there that we would feel comfortable with?
My concern would be, or our concern would be businesses that would allow for the sale of alcohol and things that Ms. Tate spoke about.
And across the street, catty corner, we have essentially a bar that's on premise. This is an application for off-premise liquor store, essentially. And it is the same owner, but different tenant in the building this time is a different applicant.
Going back to that property again, going back decades, that has been the hub of criminal activity up and down that corridor. People ordering in the area, and I think it's going to take time to break that cycle, break that chain. And if a business opens there that's selling alcohol, and then you've got the bar across the street and the convenience store right across the street. Granted, those owners are working with us, but that area's it's at a tipping point. It could go either direction, and the decisions we make on this, what type of businesses are established, it's going to decide whether we want to go back to how West Moulton was 20 years ago, or do we want to continue in the direction that it's going now?
And the issue, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You're finished. The issue is not necessarily, it's zoned now to sell beer and wine. I mean, and I don't think that anybody's arguing that. The issue is that the B2 zoning is the broadest, where's Lee? Is the broadest business zoning that we have. So if this business fails, then anything under the scope of what we can look at as a business in the city of Decatur can go there. It's not necessarily the beer and the wine that's the problem, it's the B2 zoning that's the problem. And if this business fails, then we're opened up for everything there. And I think that the captain and David, Mr. Lee and Ms. Tate, and I'm sure that Ms. Burks would have as well stated that, you know, we've come a long way. We've come a long, long way. And the thing now is that we don't need to digress and move backwards. And this is one of those situations where the ownership has shown that it doesn't really care what goes on there as long as they're getting their money on time. We have had illegal weapons there. They've confiscated. We've confiscated, or gaming machines have been in that location where when we found gaming machines there. There have been drugs sold on that facility, and as Captain said, when the officers go there, they're told to leave. Let these guys sell their drugs. So that all falls under the umbrella of the owner. Regardless of who's leasing that thing, the owner is responsible for all of this, and he's not taking a hand to make sure that this doesn't happen again. So when we open this up, we're opening this up wide open. And as Ms. Tate said, we have two very similar situations. We did the Morningside, we have the 19th Avenue, and they're no different. They're no different. They impact neighborhoods.
Any other questions for Captain Archer? All right, anyone else here that wants to speak on this item? We have the public hearing open. All right, seeing no one here to speak, no one else here to speak on that item, we'll consider the public hearing closed. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McMasters.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Lee, I have one question. Would we consider Moulton Street a commercial corridor?
A majority of the corridor is in our neighborhood commercial district, the B1, more restrictive of the uses, more focused on businesses that directly support residential.
Okay. And then I guess my question for Captain Archer, which I remembered right after you sat down. You named some, or actually Mr. Jackson named several, and if you don't mind, come back, I'm sorry. things that, weapons and machines and drugs, those are those limited to that property? Like heavily, I mean, obviously, it's all over, those things can happen anywhere in the city, but those were very, most of that activity was happening at that specific property, or any
That
other?
property and properties owned.
I think so. I'm gonna say this, that the last time that I was in there and the store was open and the people that know me understand that I don't have a problem with firearms. But we were in there and there was an AK-47 leaning up against the counter inside the store there. I just don't know that that's necessary, that you've got that, and then you walk outside and the parking lot's littered with pieces of Brillo pad, when you've got weapons and you can get you crack and a screen and a pipe right there in the same place.
So your concern is more about the owner?
I think he's responsible. Now, he may have a tenant in there, but it's still, like Captain Archer said, that's been the nucleus for up to as long as I've been around.
Yeah.
And I know Mr. Jackson's aware of that, but.
We've had all-out gang fights there. I mean, as far as Decatur gangs go, if you will. We've had all-out fights there where the police have come and had to use their resources to try to stop this. And again, we can say that the next tenant might do this or do that or do something better, but the fact of the matter is that the same owner, the same connecting factor is there, and that's the owner.
Well, and Billy, we had a couple of different owners during this time period that were in there.
You mean tenants?
Tenants,
Yes.
tenants, not owners.
Several different, not just a
Yes.
couple. But I'll say this too, that if we go back to what Ms. Tate said and we compare it to the Morningside situation, that person has been the owner of that Morningside shopping center for probably a couple of decades. No record, no criminal activity that we know of like this, yet and still we wouldn't allow him the responsibility of going B2. And as she said, it's one neighborhood to the next. And the people of this neighborhood, and I've gotten many calls, and that's how Ms. Burks knew that we were having this meeting today, because she was one of the probably 15 or so people who called me, and I know that Ms. Tate has gotten calls because we've had this conversation. But the people who have ownership in this community don't want this. And they're saying that they don't want this, so it's, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that I appreciate you, Ms. Tate, for coming up and speaking today. You serve on the Planning Commission, and I know you've had plenty of experience with that. And not only that, this is your backyard, pretty much. This isn't my backyard. I don't live in that area, and this isn't the majority of our backyard. So I highly respect, as the rest of you as well, that come and have spoken and pretty much given your opinion on how you feel that this is going to be affecting the area that you care about, that you love. As well as Mr. Lee and Captain Archer. If I'm not mistaken, this is the property on the right-hand side if you're going towards Trinity, right? Right. It is on the side. It's on the side. Okay. So if you're going, and I've passed by there 100 times and seen officers out with multiple subjects. I'm not saying that is necessarily that they're committing crimes, but it does appear to be. There's a lot of issues in that area. And not only that, I mean, the people that live in this area don't want it there. I mean,
I think it's only fair to point out, Ms. Tate was there when this came before the Planning Commission. There were a large number of people that were there in favor of moving it to B2.
Who didn't live in the community.
And that may be true. I'm just saying that there were
We had petitions. We had petitions with people from Somerville signing the petition. We had people from Church Street Northwest signing the petition. That's 1.6 miles away. 1.6 miles away from that place takes us into District 4. It actually takes us into District 5. So if they can weigh in on this, so can people in District 5 and District 4, and even District 2 can weigh in on that thing. But the people who signed this petition, many of those people don't live in that community. I'd say the vast majority of those people, because me and Ms. Tate had this conversation. There was even one person that you and I talked about, Ms. Tate, who is no longer living. Is that accurate? Okay.
And that may be true. All I can say is what I saw at the planning commission, and a lot of those people did say they did live in the neighborhood. I can't say whether they do or not, because I don't know.
Well, let me say this, Jacob. The people who have called me, like Ms. Tate and like Mr. and Mrs. Burks, have invested in the neighborhood and they own in the neighborhood.
Sure.
They're not, and again, no disrespect or shorting of a person who leases or rents there, but they could be here today and gone tomorrow.
Sure. I'm not. All I'm trying to say is he's saying there was only people, there were people at the meeting that came and spoke in favor.
And there were, but I'll just simply say that we could fill up this room with people from all over our city and say, we don't want it.
Right.
And it would be the exact same as filling it up with people who say they do want it. So that's no real bearing on the impact that it's going to have on the community.
I actually completely agree with that, because we make decisions a lot of times just because people do show up to meetings, and I think that's a mistake. So, but I just wanted to point out that there were people at the planning commission. To Ms. Tate and Mr. Jackson's point, I voted on Morningside to not rezone that. I actually do think I made a mistake on that vote. If I was voting on that again, I actually would vote to rezone that, and I did vote. I was the only one that voted in favor of rezoning is it 19th Avenue, Point Mallard Parkway, because I felt like that was a commercial corridor, and I did vote in favor of that even though it didn't pass. I do think there's very valid points made about this owner, and I think that's important because there's been a long history, as you guys have pointed out, and I think you guys have too, that there's some issues there. So that changes things for me, but I do think I made a mistake on the Morningside vote, and I did vote in favor of the other rezoning. Any other discussion? All right, so a no vote here is to not rezone to B2, which would be in alignment with what the Planning Commission did as well. So just to be clear, no vote is to leave it B1. All right, any other discussion? Roll call? No.
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 No. No.
Ordinance number 224512 fails with a vote of 5-0. All right, and I'm sorry, if you don't mind signing in before you guys leave, and can we pass that back to her so she won't have to come in front? Thank you. All right, we'll move into resolutions. Resolution number 22, well, we've got a string of weed abatements. We want to take those one at a time.
We do, but I'll let it go tonight. You guys have.
Okay.
I'll let it go tonight.
So we'll take those all together.
No changes that I'm aware of on any of these.
And let me add too that this is the exact reason that I vote no on these things is what Mr. Fortin was talking about. There seems to be a double standard, so that I will vote no on all of these.
Okay, but we're good. All together.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Pepper.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, resolutions, and it's A through K. Those are approved, all approved with a vote of 4-1. All right, moving down to resolution L, resolution number 22-159, authorize mayor to accept 2022 HIDA grant.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Suzanne Henderson, Grants Administrator. This is for the mayor to accept the HIDA grant. This is unspent money that is actually reappropriated.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
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 Resolution 22-159 is approved with a vote of 5-0. Resolution number 22-160, approved budget amendment for the capital expenditure of a recreational facility and softball field complex. Dawn?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Dawn Roniker, Finance Manager for the City of Decatur. This resolution will allow us to budget the 3M money that came to the city. That's allowing $35 million for the replacement of the Aquadome and $6,890,824.66 for the construction of a new softball field complex and its related expenses. As is customary for large capital projects, we do anticipate some preliminary work needing to be done. This just allows us to get those budgets in place for the projects so that those can be done as they arise. As always, if there is anything requiring a contract or a bid, those will still come before council.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion?
I've opposed this from the beginning. The Aquadome serviced the Southwest community where it sits, and I think that we had other options where we could have serviced that neighborhood more thoroughly by having it in that neighborhood still. And as far as, well, we know how I feel about the softball fields and purchase of that property and doing that project, so I will not support this tonight.
All right. Any other discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution 22-160 is approved with a vote of 4-1. Next, we have ordinances, first reading. Ordinance 22-4521, approve annexation 370-22, approximately 14.57 acres located at 2900 Upper River Road, Southeast. Lee?
Yes, this is a property on Upper River Road. This was previously given a pre-zoning of R4. This would complete the annexation process, and if approved, it would be given the R4 zoning.
Okay, and this, thanks Lee. Any questions for Lee? This is a first reading, and I know Herman's going to tell me we probably should not hear public comment, but I think that when we started this process with the pre-zoning, I did allow public comment at the meeting prior to the actual vote, and I think to continue with the precedents that I probably mistakenly set, I think we need to allow for that public comment.
As long as that's sort of, we're not talking about it. You want to hear from the public.
Right.
I'm not trying to prevent that, but you need to understand that hearing will be 15.
I understand.
And they need to understand that that's where y'all will decide what to occur, so if they
Sure.
have more information, they need to be back for that also.
And the applicant is under the understanding he would be here on the 18th, so.
Well, yes, and anybody else that has an interest in this should be here, so.
Sure.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. We're not trying to keep anybody speaking, it's just that it seems to be redundant, and the applicant's not here, other interested parties are not here. So the idea of having a hearing is to have everybody here and give input back, but I understand what you're saying, and no, we're gonna move.
Sure.
The direction you just talked about.
Okay, yeah, I understand that, but we're gonna allow public comment. My first person on the list for this item is Andrea Hoffmeyer Wilson, and we'll do our typical 3 minutes and try to keep it to 3 minutes.
I'm not going to give any of it back to this particular, so just.
You never do.
Well, I have. I've done less than 3 minutes. I've done 2 minutes and 47 seconds. So, well, here we are again. My name is Andrea Hoffmeyer Wilson. I live at 1306 Carradale Street. So I'm not in this neighborhood, but I actually care about what's going on with this. So I am here representing One Duck. That's the One Decatur United Citizens Kaizen, and I have about half a dozen of our other members who are going to stand up and address some concerns that we have. The reason why we're here tonight is that over the recent months, One Duck has presented several concerns when we were in the process of the rezoning of this property. So that's a fait accompli, that ship has sailed. So now we're at the point of the annexation. And most recently, the Planning Commission voted to approve the annexation of this property to provide the developer access to Decatur city utilities and other services. Now, this vote occurred despite questions and concerns that were being raised by neighboring residents for which the commission had no reply. So these questions were patently ignored. So we have a problem with our processes and our governance, because if we were to wait until the 18th, then we wouldn't have actual substantive dialogue. And that's what we're looking for. We are not looking to just come in here and raise questions and then those questions aren't answered. So we're going to look to bring these questions out tonight, but we will also be following up with these questions in an email. And what we'd like to do is to resolve these issues before we come to the table on the 18th. And we'd like for there to be some preparation ahead of time. I watched the recording of the meeting with the Planning Commission, and I found it very troubling because questions were asked and the commission said, does anybody have an answer to that? There wasn't an answer, and then they went forward with the vote. Well, that's not really proper stakeholder engagement. So we're going to hear about incompatibility with neighboring residents, and the annexation of this is going to be the final nail in the coffin that will create the conditions for inevitable tensions at best and potential conflict at worst between future apartment renters and current residents. We're going to hear about incompatibility with neighboring agricultural operations, water quality concerns that are citywide and have regional impact, and incompatibility with the neighboring river and Wheeler Wildlife Refuge. So,
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Next on our list is Mr. Greg Blythe.
Thank y'all for bending the rules a little bit. I'm glad you got a good attorney here to say it's okay, because
it's okay.
It's a very, it's okay. All right, I'm Greg Blythe, and I live at 3207 Old River Road, Decatur, Alabama, and glad y'all have me back. I know that the Planning Commission has recommended that you annex the Villarreal property. I would like to make you aware of a few issues that surround the property, that the surrounding property owners would like to have on record. The Planning Commission stated that they did not have to answer our questions. As a concerned property owner next to the proposed property to be annexed, I would like for you to answer a few questions, or at least consider them, that I and other adjoining property owners would like to have answered on the record before you vote. A yes, no. Just, you don't have to answer the questions. This is kind of silly, but I'll answer them anyway. Do members of the City Council know the property adjoining the proposed land to be annexed has a livestock farm that has been in operation for over 20 years? To make it clear for those of you who may have read the article in the Decatur paper concerning the Planning Commission meeting, my farm operation covers more than 30 acres, not 2.7. I've taken a lot of flack about 2.7 acres being a cattle operation, but it's 30 acres or more. Are the council members familiar with the smell of fresh cow manure and the noise made by cows that have just weaned their calves? Has the council members considered the health issue concerning having livestock within 30 feet of an apartment building? Is 30 feet a suitable distance for the residents of Decatur to coexist with any type of existing agricultural operation? For the record, the city has inferred that, for the record, can the city interfere with the property use of any of the adjoining landowners who are not in the city? And that's basically my questions. I think that there'll be other questions concerning these, but I do hope that although the Planning Commission recommended this to the council, that you'll at least, I know you weren't at the Planning Commission, so you didn't hear that, but
was watching.
Sometimes the planning commission can make good decisions, sometimes the planning commission can't make good decisions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Blythe. Next is Lyle Blythe. Some trees down.
Yes, we do.
I'm Lyle Blythe again, 3207 Old River Road. We would like for the Planning Commission and the City Council to be accountable to the people of Decatur for their decisions. We would like for them to do their due diligence to become knowledgeable about the problems and willing to acknowledge that they don't know all the particulars. Kent Lawrence said that they didn't have to answer our questions. That caused us to infer that they didn't know the answers, yet they voted to annex. Who votes for an issue when they don't have all the needed information? I've noticed that the City Council, most of the time, when presented with an issue, says, well, the Planning Commission approved it, as if that's a reason to approve it. Many of the people that agree with us aren't attending every meeting. That doesn't mean that they don't still care. One of my purposes in continuing to speak out is that most of Decatur does not realize what this new zoning is going to do to our city. I want them to know that when this zoning is voted in this summer, what it will do to our city. Like the Moulton Street issue, this is in our backyard. Like the Moulton Street issue, the residents don't want it. If you truly do consider the number of people who show up and care, how many people have shown up in favor of the apartments on Upper River Road? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blythe. Next, I have Randy Smith.
My name is Randy Smith. I live at 2820 Hunterwood Drive, and our property, along with 6 others, adjoins the western edge of the property in consideration. And I hope maybe you appreciate our efforts to be a little more organized tonight than we have been in the past. I'd like to add these questions and concerns to the list. Are there other parcels in the vicinity of this property that are being considered for annexation as R4? Is this not spot zoning or selective zoning? And can you explain to the adjacent property owners how this land is being developed consistent with the adjacent land? The landowner has referenced a ditch that runs through the property. For those not familiar with this land, it is not a ditch. It is a creek or stream with actual running water. Considering the property's location so close to the refuge, should the city do an environmental impact study before approval? In the Decatur 1 document, it is recommended that a setback of 50 to 70 feet would be desirable for land not next to the land that is next to agricultural land. And we understand that there is a rewrite in the process that is going to reduce this distance, but is that appropriate? And should land being considered for annexation be zoned similar, and shouldn't land being considered for annexation be zoned similar to the existing land that's adjoining it? Thank you very much for allowing us to share our concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Next, I have Sheila Smith.
My name is Sheila Smith. I live at 2820 Hunterwood Drive. My husband Randy and I, we purchased our house and moved in at 2820 Hunterwood about 2 years ago. We have put our blood, sweat, and tears into that house. And yes, it will back up to the proposed apartments that Mr. Villarreal is planning on developing. And we've invited all of you, including the mayor, everyone. Mr. Jackson, I don't believe we were able to contact you, but we contacted everyone else about coming out to see what 30 feet looks like.
I went out to the Blythe's house, so I
But we're on the other side.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The houses on Hunterwood, it's different. Our lots are wide, but they're not deep. And You know, we could possibly have not only 12 units looking in my backyard, but we could have 2 buildings looking in my backyard. We could have 24 units looking into my backyard. We could have 24 units looking into my master bedroom window, and 24 units looking at my grandchildren playing in their backyard. And I would love for y'all to come see how close that is. Carlton, I appreciate you coming out and taking a look, but I really do think y'all need to come look.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Smith. And I think Greg drove me about the distance, probably by your house.
My house, but I've got.
No, we went on that side as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But
And for the record, my number's on our city's website. My cell number is. Okay.
But thank you, Ms. Smith.
I'd love the mayor to come because he's an old Lincoln guy. I don't show him, he grew up in the country, so he knows about the country.
You don't think I looked like a country guy out there? All right, if you say so.
Something loafers didn't sink in the mud.
All right, thank you again. Next is Joe M. Red Dillingham.
Well, here's hoping the lightning doesn't strike. We lose power and heaven forbid because they see.
One way or the
Maine,
other.
do you need to sign up, complain about something?
Joanne Dillingham, 3130 Hickory Hill Road, Southeast Decatur. I live in that community, and from day one, what I have been interested in is infrastructure and runoff and such as that to the Wheeler Wildlife. As has already been said, it's not a ditch, it is a creek. It has been there forever and a day. It goes directly into Flint Creek. When I spoke at the Planning Council meeting, I asked 3 questions, and I'm going to give you the majority of those 3 questions. I was really amazed, having done government work for quite some time, at the response that I got. The first question that I asked was, how does the owner of the property that's looking at annexation benefit from it? And the response I got was, access to utilities. That's a verbatim comment. Well, it didn't tell me about, I'm concerned about the infrastructure. We know we have water issues, we lose power out there, we have broadband issues, sewage. What's going to happen with fire and health and law enforcement and such as that? On the questionnaire he filled out, he said there were going to be 200 units. That remains to be seen. That's a pretty heavy influx of people coming into that community. And I'm concerned about the infrastructure issues. Another thing is, given the amount of water pollution that we already have here in Decatur with the we okay?
No, David's volume is turned up out there, but go ahead.
Okie dokie, all right. With the Tennessee River and such as that, if annexation occurs and a 400-car parking lot goes in, I'm concerned about potential pollutants into the Tennessee, into Flint Creek. You know, we're becoming internationally famous for Wheeler Wildlife Refuge, and we make money on that. And I'm on an awful lot of environmental social pages and such as that, and the folks are coming from Scotland and from England, and word is growing about Decatur, Alabama. And doggone if we don't take care of that water, we're not going to have that, and we will never, ever, ever get it back. And our kids, I have grandkids, you guys aren't there yet. Hopefully you will be, and I know you want that, or I assume you do, for your children. So this is, you know, that's my stake in the game, is making sure that my grandkids, your greats, are going to have the beauty of the whooping cranes and such as that. Working hard here not to be emotional because it's a really big deal for me. Lastly, if annexation does occur, what financial burdens do the taxpayers of Decatur incur? I'd like answers to those questions before you all come into your annexation vote. Thank you so much for listening to me again.
Thank
Y'all
you.
take care.
Next on my list is Rob Wilson.
Rob Wilson, 1306 Caredale Street, Decatur. follow up a little bit on what Joe said, which was one of the things I was going to talk about, is the financial impact of this. You know, it's easy to say we want 200 units or whatever it ends up being, you know, 400, 500 new people living in there and the things that that brings. I know as an old retired CEO, people would bring me projects, and the first thing I do is ask for cost-benefit analysis, ask to see what the immediate cost is as well as potential future return, et cetera. I'm sure you guys have done that work and have access to all of that. But one of the things that I think when we go to an annexation conversation for the public, it would be good for the public to know that as well. I mean, what is this going to cost now? For example, you know, there's several of them. Obviously, you know, the fire and the police, you know, maybe the chief needs a new engine. Police may need new people just because of all of that coming in. Right now in Decatur, as we all know, we've got a problem with waste management of it being kind of behind for a lot of good reasons, but the point is we're just adding to that. You know, and that's going to affect not just this district, it affects Decatur, all 5 districts. You know, as we know, when all of the infrastructure out there was put together, nobody had any idea that this was going to happen, and the sewer system was not put together that way. What's the electrical, not only the feed, but, you know, what's the capacity and what do we have to do? Do the Decatur taxpayers have to bear that burden while we ramp up into, oh, when they're all rented out, we're going to get this much money coming into the city? Well, what's the immediate cost of that? What's the payout over time before you get to that ROI? And then the last point, going back to Mr. Blythe, what he was talking about a little bit, and I think this is a reason why I know it's not in accordance with how it's supposed to work, but this is a prime example of why a little bit of conversation prior to a few minutes before y'all vote is in order. Questions were asked at Planning Commission. The answers were given, we don't know. Vote was taken. Y'all get it. You have it in your meetings. Well, this is what the Planning Commission voted. Well, what we're going to do is get you some of those questions so you can at least consider them, think about them, hopefully look them up and get the answers before you're put on the spot and you vote without that information. That's something that I hope organizational governance-wise we can address going forward in the process. One of the things, and I think y'all got an earful of it at the 6th Avenue stuff, the people feel disenfranchised. For me, were it my company to run, largely it seems to be about communication. And you don't want, not that it's true, but you don't want a perception of a lack of transparency. And so, thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. And I completely agree with the last statement you made, which is why I thought it was appropriate to hear you guys tonight. And I also, I would, one response to one item is, and I agree with you, is I hope that we don't just vote, because we're elected officials, the Planning Commission is not. And I hope that we do our own research and don't just take a vote that the Planning Commission gave. We do absolutely value their input, and they do a lot of research as well, but it's our duty to do that on top of what they do, along with listening to our planning folks and our engineering folks and building. So I hope that we would do that. So, thank you. I did not have anyone else on the list to speak. Did I miss anyone? Mr. Templeton, you good to go? Okay. All right. Close my sheet. All right, so that is a first reading. It will be on the next agenda to potentially vote on for the 18th. So, all right, moving into boards and commissions, appoint Police Chief Pinion to the Morgan County Emergency Management Communications Board, term expiring April 11th, 23.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMasters, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
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 That appointment is approved with a vote of 5-0. Next is appoint Joseph Williams to the Decatur Downtown Redevelopment Authority with term expiring June 21st, 2028.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McMasters, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? I will just say I know Joseph, and I believe he works at Aldott.
He's a
the
permanent
quality
member.
member. Yeah. Any other discussion? Roll call. Aye.
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 That appointment is approved 5-0. Next council work session will be held July 11th, 2022 at 5 p.m. Next regular council meeting will be held on July 18th, 2022 at 10 a.m. Anything else from any department directors? Mayor?
No, sir.
All right, anything else from council?
I think I have all the questions written down. I'm gonna do my best to research it and answer it.
We're gonna send them to you.
And you know, as far as the communication ends, sometimes I'm like, whoa, I mean, I do my best. Do my best.
And it's appreciated.
All right, anything else from council? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.